I want to start with a number. It's a number that's pasted on, every HR dashboard, every LinkedIn feed. And it's probably burning a hole in the back of your mind right now. 37%.
The big one.
Yeah.
That's the chunk of the workforce AI is predicted to displace by the end of this year, 2026.
We all know the stat. We've been hearing about it since, the GPT-5 rollout. But I don't want to talk about the number itself.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the feeling underneath it. Because if we're being honest, most of us are walking around with this low-level hum of panic.
Oh, absolutely. It's the waiting for the other shoe to drop phase of the tech curve. We're past the novelty. Now we're in the deployment phase.
Right. And usually when we cover these kinds of reports, it's all doom and gloom, or it's this kind of toxic positivity about how AI is your co-pilot.
Yeah, that one.
But today we're looking at something different. We're doing a deep dive into the 2026 edition of The Designer's Blueprint, Navigating the AI Career Pivot.
It's a fascinating document.
It is, but frankly, when I first read the core thesis, I thought it was just corporate spin. They say, AI won't replace you, it will reveal you.
I had the same reaction at first.
My immediate thought was, okay, that sounds like a very fancy way of saying I'm going to get fired, but I should feel enlightened about it.
It does sound like a platitude, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But when you really dig in, reveal is a much more, I'd say, aggressive word than replace.
That's so.
Well, replacement is passive, right? It just happens to you.
Yeah.
But revealing is active. The argument they make is that AI acts like a solvent.
A solvent.
Yeah, it dissolves all the busy work, all the rote tasks, all the filler we've used to justify our salaries for the last 20 years. And once that's gone, whatever's left standing.
That's you.
That's you. That's your actual value.
Which is terrifying. Because for a lot of people, if you dissolve the busy work, there might not be a lot left standing.
Exactly. And that is the brutal honesty of this document. It's not a how to prompt guide. It's a survival guide that forces you to look at whether you are a doer or a designer. Because in 2026, the doer is dead in the water.
So let's get into this distinction, because I think a lot of people, myself included, we pride ourselves on being doers.
Of course.
We get things done. We execute. Why is that suddenly a liability?
So it's not that execution itself is bad. It's that the nature of execution has completely changed.
Okay.
In this blueprint, a doer is defined as someone whose primary value comes from following a process.
Yeah.
Input A leads to output B.
It's transactional.
It's transactional, it's routine, and this is the key. It's task-based. The problem is that autonomous agents, and I'm not just talking chatbots, I mean actual agents that can use tools.
Right.
They're now infinitely better at doing than we are. They don't sleep, they don't complain, and they cost fractions of a cent per task.
So if my job is I take data from this spreadsheet, I put it into that slide deck, and then I email it to the team, I am a doer.
Yes. And you are in what they call the replacement zone, because you are essentially acting as a biological API.
Ouch. A biological API.
You're just moving information from one silo to another. An agent can do that in milliseconds.
That stings a little. Okay, so let's contrast that with the designer. Because to me, designer sounds like a creative role. Like I need to be good at Photoshop or something.
No, and that's a really common misconception. In this context, designer is architectural.
Architectural.
It's about designing outcomes and designing systems. The designer doesn't move the data. The designer builds the workflow that moves the data. They decide why it needs to move, where it should go, and most importantly, they validate the quality of the result.
The quality.
The source calls this human critical work. It's the work that requires judgment, context, and liability.
Liability. That's an interesting word to throw in there.
It's essential. I mean, think about it. An AI can execute a task, but it can't take responsibility for it. If an agent hallucinates a legal precedent in a contract, who gets sued?
Not the software.
Not the software. The person who designed and signed off on that workflow is on the hook. The designer is the one who says, this outcome is good enough to put my name on.
So the doer is the hands and the designer is, what, the brain? Or the conscience?
I'd say the architect and the foreman combined. You're building the factory, and then you're walking the floor to make sure the machines are all running correctly.
Okay, this sounds great in theory, but I want to push back a little on the practicality here.
Go for it.
Most of us are hired to do. Our jobs are about doing. If I stop doing and start architecting, my boss is going to walk by my desk, see me staring out the window thinking big thoughts,
Right.
and ask why I haven't answered my emails in the last hour.
And that is the friction point.
Ah.
We're in this incredibly messy transition period where managers still measure productivity by busyness.
Exactly.
But the source argues that if you cling to that doer identity, if you keep trying to outwork the AI, at the task level, you will lose.
You can't win that race.
You cannot type for faster than a token generator.
Right.
The whole designer pivot is about shifting your output from volume of tasks to value of systems.
Okay, so how do we actually know where we stand? Because I think everyone listening right now wants to believe they're a designer.
Of course.
I think strategically, I see the big picture, but the source has a reality check for us.
It does, the 10-minute audit. And I'll warn you, this is not a fun exercise. It's designed to be uncomfortable.
Walk us through it, and let's use a real example, not just the steps. Let's say I'm a project manager.
Perfect. Project management is a field that is getting absolutely hammered by agents right now. So, step 1, list your top 10 recurring tasks.
Okay.
The things you actually spend your week doing. Not what's in your job description, but the reality on the ground.
All right, so number 1, chasing people for status updates. That's a big one. 2, updating the Jira board or Asana. 3, scheduling the weekly sync meeting. 4, writing the summary email after that meeting.
Keep going.
5 would be resourcing, figuring out who's free for a new task. 6, de-escalating a conflict between 2 developers. 7, presenting the project roadmap to stakeholders.
Stop there. That's a great list. Now, step 2, label them. Agent run or human critical. And be brutally honest with yourself. Can an autonomous agent with access to your calendar, Slack, and project tools handle the task?
Okay. Scheduling the sync, that's agent run for sure.
Okay.
Updating the Jira board, agent run. Writing the summary email.
What do you think?
Definitely agent run. The AI is probably better at summarizing than I am, to be honest.
Okay, what about chasing people for updates?
That feels human, but actually, no. An agent could just ping them on Slack automatically until they reply, so agent run.
Exactly. Now, what about de-escalating a conflict between 2 developers?
That's human critical. No question. An AI can't read the room. It doesn't know that Steve is cranky because his dog is sick or that Sarah is stressed about a deadline. That's all human nuance.
Right, and presenting the roadmap.
I think. Human critical. I mean, the AI could generate the slides, but the persuasion part, getting the stakeholders on board, convincing them this is the right direction, that's me.
So look at your list. You just rattled off 7 things. 5 of them were agent run.
Yeah.
2 were human critical.
70% of my job is replaceable. That's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings us to step 3, the 70-30 rule. The source says if AI can handle 70% of your work, you have a massive problem. Because you can't just say, great, I'll only work 30% of the time and get paid my full salary.
Yeah, that's the nightmare scenario, right? I go to my boss and say, hey, good news. The bots are doing the heavy lifting. I'm just going to vibe for the rest of the week.
You're fired in that scenario. The audit forces you to confront the void. If 70% of your day just vanishes, what do you fill it with? And most people panic here. They try to cling to the 70%.
They start saying things like, no, I need to write the emails personally to give it that personal touch.
That's denial. It's just denial.
So what does the designer do with that void?
They expand the 30%. They take that human critical slice, the conflict resolution, the stakeholder persuasion, and they turn that into the entire job.
Okay, expand on that.
They don't just present the roadmap. They design a dynamic, real-time roadmap system that updates itself. So they can spend all their time managing stakeholder relationships and building political capital.
But that's a huge leap. You're asking someone to go from admin work to high-level strategy almost overnight.
It is a huge leap. That's why the source calls it a career pivot, not a career tweak. It requires upskilling not just in technology, but in context. You have to understand your business so deeply that you know what needs to be designed in the first place.
It's interesting you mention upskilling because the standard advice for the last 2 years has just been learn to prompt,
Oh, yes.
become a prompt engineer. And this source basically takes a flamethrower to that whole
Oh, my God. Prompt engineering was a temporary bridge. You have a patch because the models weren't smart enough to understand intent on their own. But look at the models we have now in 2026. They're multimodal, they have real reasoning capabilities, they can optimize their own prompts. If your whole career strategy is, I write really good text strings, you are just a slightly more advanced doer.
So if it's not prompting, what is the skill? The source talks about becoming an AI supervisor or an agent orchestrator.
Think of it like this. In 2024, you wrote a prompt to get a paragraph of text. In 2026, you are orchestrating a team of agents to execute an entire workflow. Let's go back to your report writing example.
Yeah.
The old way, you write the report, the prompt engineer way. You ask GPT to write the report for you.
And the designer way.
The designer builds the system. They set up Agent A to scrape market data every morning at 6 a.m. They set up Agent B to cross-reference that with internal sales figures from your CRM. They set up Agent C to flag any anomalies that deviate by more than 5%.
So they're building the process.
Exactly. Then the designer comes in at 8 a.m., looks only at the anomalies, the exceptions, and adds their strategic analysis. Then Agent D formats the whole thing and sends it out. The designer didn't write the report. They built the machine that writes the report.
That sounds incredibly efficient, but also really complicated. It requires a systems thinking mindset that, let's be honest, a lot of people just haven't exercised. We've been trained to be task monkeys.
We have. And that's the reveal. The AI is revealing that many of us have been, well, lazy thinkers. We've used busyness as a crutch to avoid the hard work of systems architecture.
Okay, I want to play devil's advocate again here.
Please.
Let's say I do this. I build the machine. I become the agent orchestrator. I create this beautiful system that does the work of 3 people. Why does a company need me anymore?
Wow.
Why don't they just take my system and hand it to a cheaper junior employee to watch over, or just let the AI run itself?
This is the business case section of the deep dive, and it's probably the most important part for anyone worried about their job security. The source argues that your value isn't the system itself, it's the judgment applied to the system.
The judgment.
It's what we used to call institutional knowledge.
Break that down for me, because institutional knowledge can sound like something people just say to make themselves feel important.
It's the stuff that isn't in the database. It's knowing that the VP of sales hates it when you format data in a pie chart because he's colorblind.
Ha, right.
It's knowing that the client in Chicago is super sensitive about shipping delays because they got burned 3 years ago on a big order. An agent doesn't know that history unless you explicitly program it, and even then, it lacks the nuance.
So the designer bridges the gap between the perfect logic of the machine and the messy reality of the humans.
Precisely. The source uses this amazing phrase, become a leverage point, not a cost line.
A leverage point, not a cost line.
If you are just doing tasks, you are a cost. You are an expensive way to get work done. But if you are a designer, you are a leverage point. You are using the AI to amplify your unique institutional knowledge. You aren't the person who writes the report. You are the person who ensures the entire reporting function is aligned with company strategy.
That is a much, much harder role to fire.
It's also a much harder role to do. It's higher stakes.
The source suggests a way to start this conversation with your team, and honestly, it's a terrifying question. They suggest asking your team, if AI automated 70% of our work today, what would our unique value become? What would we design that doesn't exist?
If you ask that in a team meeting, be prepared for a long, awkward silence.
Or just pure panic.
Or panic. But it's the only question that matters right now. Because if the answer is, we don't know, then your team is a walking target for restructuring.
But what if you get a good answer?
Right. If the answer is, oh, if we didn't have to do all this data entry, we could finally build that predictive churn model we've been talking about for 3 years, then you have a path forward. You have a future.
It moves the conversation from defense to offense.
That's it.
Instead of, how do we protect our jobs, it becomes, what could we achieve if we were 10 times faster?
And that's the mindset shift. The doer plays defense, trying to hide from automation. The designer plays offense, grabbing the automation by the throat and using it to build something bigger.
I love that image, grabbing the automation by the throat. But let's be real for a second. Not everyone can make this shift. There are people listening right now who are thinking, look, I just want to do my job, go home and watch Netflix. I don't want to be an architect. What happens to them?
The source is pretty bleak on this front. It doesn't sugarcoat it at all.
It doesn't.
If you insist on remaining a pure doer, you will face wage compression. Your work will become cheaper and cheaper because you are competing directly with software that effectively costs $0 to run. You might not get fired immediately, but your career trajectory will flatline.
So the doer path is a race to the bottom.
It is, and that's why that audit is so critical.
Yeah.
You need to stop bleeding value into tasks that ultimately don't matter anymore.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here. The reveal versus replace, the doer versus designer, the audit, the death of prompting. I want to circle back to the practical application. The source issues a quarterly challenge. And I like this because it's small. It's not change your whole life tomorrow.
Right. It's manageable. The challenge is identify one task to stop doing and one system to start designing.
Just one of each.
Just one. Pick the most annoying, repetitive thing on your plate. Maybe it's sorting your inbox. Maybe it's finding meeting times that work for 5 people. Build an agent workflow to handle it. And don't just use a tool to design the workflow. Test it. Refine it. Learn to trust it.
And then with the time you get back.
Then you take that time you saved, even if it's just 30 minutes a week, and you use it to design a system for something that's broken in your company. A broken onboarding process, a broken feedback loop. Just sketch out how agents could fix it.
It's about building the muscle.
Exactly. You have to train your brain to see agent opportunities
Right.
the same way you currently see tasks on a to-do list.
Before we wrap up, there is one final thought from the source that has been really sticking with me. It's about the psychological toll of this shift. We touched on it with the busyness thing, but I want to go a bit deeper.
The vulnerability aspect.
Yeah, there's a line in the conclusion that just hits you. It says, when the doing disappears, you are judged solely on your ideas and your architecture.
That is the part that keeps me up at night.
Why?
Because for decades, we have used effort as a proxy for quality. I worked really hard on this, was a valid defense.
Right, I pulled an all-nighter.
That was a badge of honor. But in a world of agents, effort is meaningless. The AI can pull 1,000 all-nighters in a single second.
So nobody cares how hard you worked. They only care if the system you designed actually works.
Correct. If your design is bad, it doesn't matter how much heart you put into it. The output is the output. It strips away all the places we used to hide. If you're a designer, you're naked. Your competence is on full display.
That is incredibly high pressure.
It is. But, and this is the other side of it, it's also the ultimate meritocracy. If you have great ideas and you can architect them, there is no limit to what you can build. You aren't limited by how fast you can type or how many hours are in the day.
So the ceiling is higher, but the floor is completely gone.
That's a perfect way to put it. The safety net of routine work is gone. You have to fly.
Well, on that terrifyingly inspiring note, I think I have a date with a mirror and a brutal 10-minute audit.
Good luck. Don't lie to yourself about that human critical column.
I'll try not to. Thanks for walking us through the blueprint. This was a lot to think about.
Anytime.
And to everyone listening, the 37% statistic is real, but so is the opportunity. Don't just do the work. Design the work. We'll see you in the next deep dive.